All right, let's do it. We are live on Facebook now, so good evening, everybody. Wow, we got a nice big crowd here tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's start with a prayer. Gracious God of heaven, thank you for this evening. Thank you for this beautiful day. And thank you for the ability to come together to study your word. And we just pray, Father, that anything you want us to learn tonight, that we will learn. May we hear and understand. May we share our ideas and thoughts. And may we come together and just glorify you in all that we do this evening. So receive all the praise and glory that is due your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I got my computer turned a little bit sideways because the light is causing a huge lens flare, but I'm going to be facing straight on. So I'm not sitting here like I'm trying to ignore Patty or anything. Okay. So tonight we're going to continue in Revelation chapter 8. We finished up with chapter 8. We finished the seventh seal last week, and we're going to talk about the trumpets. Now, we'll probably get through at least 4 of them. If we get through those 4 and we can keep going, we got a little bit of time, we'll move on to chapter 9, but we'll see how it goes first. I don't want to force anything and just kind of see how we do. But before we start, are there any questions from anything from last week? Other than go over it all again because I wasn't here.
Well, we got a few new people. Can you do a quick synopsis of what we did?
Last week?
8 was a little on the complicated side.
Indeed it was. Okay, so in Revelation chapter 7, we have the sealing of the 144,000, the first time we see this 144,000, and it's broken into 2 different parts. It goes through the 12 tribes of Judah, with 2 of them not mentioned, but one, well, we'll talk about that in a second. I don't want to confuse anybody. So there's 12 tribes, 12,000 people from each tribe for a total of 144,000. Then it talks about a great multitude. And we talked about how this is 2 different ways to look at the people of God. One representing the Jewish believers with the 144,000, and then the great multitude seen as Gentile believers. But really, there's no distinction because anybody who believes is part of God's kingdom. So it's not like we're trying to make a distinction. It's just 2 different ways of looking at all of God's people. And the 2 people that were left out were Ephraim and Dan. And both of those 2 tribes were really known for the most idolatry during their times. So that's one possible reason why they were left out. And then replacing them were Levi, who was often left out of the count, and Manasseh and Ephraim were in place of Levi and Joseph. But now we have Joseph back in here, and we have Manasseh in here, but Ephraim and Dan are left out, and Levi was in there. So there's a lot of speculation as to why that is, but one of the biggest things is because of the idolatry that was involved. And then this period in chapter 7 is like an interlude, not an actual physical break from, hey, this is the 6th seal, and before the trumpets come, there's this little interlude. It's just like kind of taking a step back from the story and looking at God saying, I'm still in control, and I'm taking care of my people.
What's the
The first
first commandment?
commandment,
The first of the 10 commandments.
to love the Lord your God with all your
Another one
heart,
is, Thou
soul.
shalt have no other gods, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
That's
hero,
probably a big one.
actually, it's Hero Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. You shall have no other gods
There you go.
before me.
That's a good reason.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that is probably why they were left out. And ultimately the overall theme was that God is in control and taking care of his people.
Okay, so
And the final verse in chapter 7, verse 17, kind of says it all. For the Lamb at the center of the throne will be their shepherd. He will lead them to springs of living water, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. And that springs of living water is going to become kind of important in the next chapter. So just hold on to that. So any questions?
That is, especially on those tribes, I get, you know, who's in, who's out,
Yeah.
why. I found that just a little bit
And I
hard
think-
to follow.
I think another reason it was done that way was to not say, hey, look, these are absolutely Jewish people, because if you put them in the way they were always represented, people would immediately latch onto that and say, look, this is about the Jews. No, it's about God's people in two different ways to look at it. From the foundation, the heritage, and the what he has established with his resurrection. I don't believe it was specific physical people. So I think that's why it was changed a little bit.
Is that why, like now, with which group is it? Say only a certain number that are getting in.
That's Jehovah's Witnesses.
Now, again, that's modern day, but does that go back to any of this? Or do you know?
No, Jehovah's Witnesses started in, well, I don't know, the 40s or 50s maybe later, 1940s, 50s. I can't remember when they started, but they take their belief from Revelation, saying there's only 144,000 of them that are getting in. There's a whole lot more than 144,000 Jehovah's Witnesses in the world. You know, we see them every weekend knocking on doors, but they say only those 144,000 are getting in. That's one of their beliefs. They take it from Revelation, but they got a lot of other stuff that just, the guy who created it was way off base. And it starts with saying Jesus is a God, not that he was God. And they have a Bible that says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and he was a God. Instead of saying he was with God and he is God, it says he is a God. And there's no Greek.
Hey, God means there's more than one.
Right, right.
Yeah, okay.
There's no Greek anywhere, any manuscript that you can translate it into a God. It is that he is God. Yeah. But they translate it differently to fit their own beliefs.
So I totally get all of it now. Maybe.
All right. Anybody else?
Said there was two missing tribes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they connected to the churches from chapter 2?
No, not really. There's really no correlation there.
Okay.
No, not at all, actually.
I know there was two of them that he was like you
Oh, I see where you're going. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, there was a lot of idolatry in, is it Smyrna? I think it was.
one of those.
I always get Smyrna and Sardis mixed up because they start with an S. So it's one of those two. There was a lot of idolatry in that particular city. And the other one that was Laodicea. Sure, there was idolatry everywhere, but Laodicea's issue was a little bit different. So
Okay.
I see where you're going with that, but not quite.
Yeah, I was just wondering if they would try.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thought. Yeah, it's a good thought. Okay, well, want to start verse 6, the trumpets? Before we start, I'm going to tell you this is probably not something you've heard before. You can find this, what I'm about to say, my belief on this, but it's not the most common belief. It's certainly not Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins in the Left Behind series. They take quite a literal approach to all of the trumpet judgments. I mean, literal to a T. And I do not. And I don't believe that's what the Bible's teaching. But again, I'll share what I believe. I'll share both sides, and I'll let you guys decide with God. Okay? All right, so let's read this. When he opened we're going to start with verse 6. The 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up. A third of the trees were burned up. A third of all green grass was burned up. The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned to blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky. on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters that had become bitter. The fourth angel sounded his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them turned dark. And a third of the day was without light, and also a third of the night. Also, as I watched, I heard an eagle that was flying in midair call out in a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the trumpet blast about to be sounded by the other three angels." Did you pick up on the theme in there? I said the same thing many, many times.
As the plagues in Egypt.
Well, yes, that is true too. That is very true. But there was, what's that?
1/3. Everything's 1/3.
1/3 is what I was going for there. Yeah.
What's the one-third?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So yeah, every single one of these first four trumpets talks about 1/3. 1/3 of the rivers, 1/3 of the trees were burned up. A third
Third of the water, third of the day.
third of the night, third of the day. Yeah, a third of everything. Why is that? Because God is trying to show here that this is not complete judgment yet. It's only a partial judgment.
It's only a third.
But the right, a third. But what is the judgment on? Did you pick up on that? We talked about this a couple weeks ago, actually. I mentioned that, maybe it wasn't here. I was talking to somebody about this. It might have been this group, but it might have been somebody else. But it's on the earth. It's a judgment of the earth. It's on the land. It's on the grass. It's on the trees. It's on the waters. It's on the rivers. It's the night and day. It is a judgment upon the earth. I'm pretty sure it was here. I said that not only will people be judged, but the earth itself. Now I'm starting to think it wasn't here. I know I talked to somebody about even judgment comes to the earth. What did the earth do wrong? Nothing, really.
Yeah, he created the earth.
Right.
Judge it.
But it's no longer good. It is part of the entire fallenness of everything that he created. He created it to be good. I'm sorry?
Part of purging.
It's part of the, yes, it is. It's part of the purging and recreation. But the earth doesn't escape God's judgment just because he created it. He created us, but we don't escape his judgment. Nothing escapes God's judgment. So even the earth is being judged, but only partially, a third of it. And that third is to show that he's still in control and that it's not a complete judgment yet. But there's more. If we go back to the seals, we saw peace, we saw death, we saw economic upheaval, we saw plagues, and we saw an earthquake in the sixth seal. All these things were kind of gradually getting worse, but they were kind of mild compared to what's going on here. So this is like a step up in the judgment of God. It's not the total judgment, it's not a complete destruction, but it is an increase in severity from what had happened. But here, we don't see anything about people being directly affected, but certainly they're going to be affected.
Well, yeah,
Because-
inadvertently they'll be affected.
Absolutely.
The water. And,
Yeah.
everything.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk for a little bit about a couple of these things. The first trumpet, this is where what I said, Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins and Left Behind, they're very, very literal. It says there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. Now that is very possible that it could be a very physical thing, like a meteor shower or an asteroid just gets destroyed and falls to the earth.
I mean, that's possible. We just had
Absolutely.
one in Ohio.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
it's not, yeah.
A comet.
To control throw.
Right. It's very possible that, and I honestly believe that it probably will be a physical, literal thing. So in that regard, I agree with them. But some people say that it's more of a spiritual thing. But I say, when I hear that, I say, well, how do you explain the trees being burned up? How are they spiritually burned up? And nobody can really answer that, and other than say, well, the trees are Christians. I'm like, okay, I don't see the connection there, but I've heard that. But then the second one, a huge mountain all ablaze was thrown into the sea. What could that be? Possibly a, what's that? Could be a volcano, yeah. And I'm going to take a little bit of a break from this for a second to explain something else. It is so important. We're living in the year 2026, okay? When I taught this in 2004 or 5, I can't remember what year it was, at the Smithfield Methodist Church, I had a completely different take on this particular trumpet judgment here. But things have changed drastically since then in 20 years. A lot has changed, so my thoughts have changed on this. And not only that, God has helped me grow so much in the last 20 years that you're getting a totally different study than they got at the Methodist Church 20 years ago. But anyway, back then, somebody had convinced me that there was a mountain, a volcano, and I cannot remember the name of it. I'm going to have to look it up real quick. What's that? No, this one's in the Canary Islands. It's got a funny name. It's like a 2 or 3 part name. There it is. Cumbre Vieja. Cumbre
That was my
Vieja.
next choice. Yeah.
That was your next choice? Okay. It's an active volcano ridge on the island of La Palma in the Canary Islands, Spain. I thought it was in Africa. It's known for its frequent eruptions, with the most recent occurring in 2021. But at one time prior to this year, I mean, I don't know, sometime between 2003 and 2026, they changed their thoughts on this. Scientists really believed that at some point that volcano was going to erupt, break off, because it's like on an island and there's not a lot underneath it. There's like no foundation. It doesn't go deep into the ocean. And they thought it's going to erupt, it's going to break off, and it's going to cause a tsunami that will put 90-foot waves on the coast of, we'd be in Smithfield, we'd probably be beachfront property. Okay? They no longer believe that. That was just the science of the time. They believed that could happen and was going to happen. They were waiting for it to happen. But now they say this thing's just going to keep on erupting, but it's never going to break off. And possibly something might come out of it and cause 6 or 7 foot waves, like at the coast of Maryland, but not going to be anything that a really bad hurricane couldn't do too. So my point there is that in 2003, people were trying to piece together what's happening right now and fit it to Revelation. In 2026, with the war going on in Iran, with the war in Ukraine, with the war that Israel had with Gaza, everybody's saying, look, this is it. These are the wars and rumors of wars. They're saying all this is happening. Yeah, it fits. But if these wars pass and nothing comes of it, then we'll go on living life and those false prophecies will fade into oblivion. And I shouldn't use the term false prophecies, but the false teachings or the improper teachings will just go into oblivion. So the point is, Jesus said, he was very clear, you don't know the day or the hour. And I'll say that to somebody and somebody will say, yeah, but you know, if he was crucified in 2030, that's only 4 years away. If he was crucified in 2033, that's only 7 years away. We're right there. We're getting ready. Like, maybe it's 200 years from now. God doesn't have to make it exactly 2,000 years from the time Jesus died. That's going to be an interesting year, be exactly 2,000 years, whether it was 2030 or 2033. But we don't know, and it's not right for us to take the times and apply it to Revelation, but rather Revelation is to let us know when the time is here. So if we're all still here, when all these things take place, we'll know. without a shadow of a doubt, we'll know. It'll match up perfectly, and it won't be any, well, this volcano kind of looks like it could be this. The volcano's still standing 20 years later after people believed that it was going to break off. Cumbre Vieja. It last erupted in 2021. So, there's more. Getting ahead a little bit. Back in 2001, I think it was written, a book called The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. Has anybody ever heard of that? Nobody's ever heard of that? You won't know who it's about? At the time, Prince Charles, now King Charles, this guy had so many people convinced that Prince Charles was going to be the Antichrist. Prince Charles went off into the woods one day and had this encounter with Satan. He says an angel, but it was probably a demon. But anyway, he had a statue made of himself that had wings coming off of the back of him. And his crest fits all the different beasts in Revelation. And this guy had everything covered. He even explained how, we're getting ahead a little bit here, the fatal head wound in chapter 8, chapter 13, how it matched his family line. And the guy, he had a lot of people convinced. But guess what? King Charles now has cancer, I think, and who knows how much longer he'll live. I don't think he's in line to be the Antichrist. So we can't apply what's going on in our life at the time to Revelation, but rather let Revelation show us.
I do believe when this happens, there'll be no speculation.
Oh, I don't think there will be either.
I don't think we're going to be confused at all.
Yeah. And I'm actually going to get into, maybe tonight and definitely next week, if not tonight, what you just said.
Yes, sir.
So let's go back to the text again. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star blazing like a torch fell from the sky, and a third of the rivers and springs of water, the name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many people died from the waters that had become bitter. Guess what Chernobyl means in English? Wormwood. Oh man, when that thing melted down, everybody's like, it's Revelation chapter 9. Guess what? How many years has that been? That was what, in the late 80s or early 90s or something like that? I can't remember. I remember I was younger. I wasn't a child, still I was younger, but but anyway, wormwood means bitter, and that term is used other places in the Bible. Jeremiah, can't remember the exact chapter now, talks about wormwood, and there's another place where, I wish I could remember now. There's at least two places in the Bible other than Revelation where the term wormwood is used. It just basically means bitter. But notice, this one is specific. It is the rivers and on the springs of water. And a third of the water turned bitter, and many people died from the waters that had become bitter. Not the oceans, just the rivers and the springs of water. The second one was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea turned into blood, a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So it's very possible, and I'm not saying that this is definitely it, very possible that some kind of meteor or asteroid or comet or something from the Earth, everybody thought it was going to be 3i Atlas was going to hit the Earth back last summer, could potentially come and hit in the ocean somewhere. And there are 4 oceans, but there's 3 really large oceans, Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Ocean. Let's just say that this big thing drops in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Sure, it's going to cause a tsunami, but that could destroy many ships, many fish, and the sea turned into blood. It means that everything, that's a Hebrew idiom, when something's turned into blood, it's a Hebrew idiom for death. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's what I've
Yep, and a third of living creatures died, and a third of ships were destroyed. So this fourth one, the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, and a third of them turned dark. Now here's a working theory that I've heard, again, may or may not happen, but the belief is that if an asteroid were to come close and maybe even touch the outer atmosphere of the Earth, not make a direct impact, but just graze, it could change the atmosphere in such a way that there's a big cloud, kind of like what you see on Jupiter, that big red storm or whatever that thing is on Jupiter, that would block out the sun for a third of the Earth. So that's something to pay attention to.
That, or it could be whatever this is that's coming in a way was some type of a light maker that's a refraction of these stars. They're not gonna shine anymore because they're not catching that light ever.
Well, yeah, you know, there's all kinds of things that could cause that to happen, but we don't know. But
But if
imagine,
all this stuff is happening and you've got all this going on at the same time, then that could be whatever's in the air too.
it could be, yeah, could be in the air too, yeah.
Can't see through.
But imagine the day cut short by a third. You don't see any light. And at night, you don't see any stars for a third of the night. You know, as the world turns, it's very possible that maybe the system gets caught in our gravity and circles with us, is another theory. And a big cloud or something, or maybe even some kind of an object that gets caught in the rotation of the Earth. I can't imagine, I'm not a physicist, so I don't know how that would affect big G gravity as opposed to little g gravity. But it's, I mean, I guess it's possible. So whatever it is, just imagine if you went out, you know, you expect to go out like at, say, 6 a.m. Is it light out at 6 a.m.? It's starting to get light out. And now it gets dark about 8 p.m. What if it didn't get light out until about 12 p.m. and it got dark about 4 p.m.? Can you imagine?
Oh, wow.
And then at about 7 or 8 p.m., you don't see any stars or the moon.
It's just black.
It's black. I mean,
Black.
yeah.
Go to the North Pole, or up where the Eskimos are, and they got just 2 or 3 hours.
Well, yeah, sure, yeah. It'd be similar to that. Yeah, the North Pole or Norway in Sweden, where it's the land of the midnight sun. Yeah, it's very well, it will be something like that according to Revelation. But these 4 things lead into the next 3. But before we go there, Stan said something earlier. He said that they mimic Egypt, and yes, that is true. I know I have it here in my notes. Let me find it. Several of these.
Water straight back in the fridge.
Yeah, in the first floor and first.
Here we go.
Is it one?
You want the water.
Oh, I was on the phone. On the bottom
Yeah,
right.
here we go. Old Testament background. Okay. In the book of Exodus, chapter 7, the Nile was turned into blood with one of the trumpet judgments. And in one of the Exodus judgments, the Nile was turned to blood. Another one of the Exodus judgments, there was a swarm of locusts. Oh, that's actually getting ahead. Never forget that one for right now. That's getting into the next one. There was, the Nile was turned to blood. There was darkness over all the land. There was the waters, when they turned to blood, they couldn't drink the water. There's more. Do you know what they are, Stan? Because I can't remember now.
I'd have.
That's okay.
It's just, like I said, each one goes back to one of them.
Yeah.
And
The fish die. That was one of them because the water's undrinkable. Fresh water poisoned, wormwood, thick darkness over Egypt.
The locusts or.
Yeah, that one's coming up in the next trumpet. Hail and fire destroys crops. That's right, I forgot about that. Hail and fire burns a third of the earth and the trees. Locusts consume everything, and locusts like creatures. But that's the next one. So several of these trumpets match what happened in Egypt, but on a much larger scale. Because in Egypt, it was just Egypt. It was just that little area. But in in Revelation, this is a worldwide effect. It's not just a small area, it's affecting the entire world. So I'm going to stop right there for a minute and see if there's any questions.
Could it be to serve the same purpose as it did in Egypt? Because he was hardening the Pharaoh's heart.
You're getting a little bit ahead, but yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. But and that's okay. We can get ahead, but you're absolutely right. You're right on track. But it's not just the Pharaoh anymore. It's lots of people.
Right.
And it kind of goes along with what John was talking about earlier. I can't remember exactly how you said it now, but about the people. What did you say now? I don't remember.
That's my train of thought too.
We'll get back to it. It'll come to me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
But you-
What's
let me-
about following one God?
I'm not, well, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but if you go back to the time of Egypt and when the plagues took place.
Yeah.
Of what was considered the world at that time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
About Egypt and that area that was affected and around there, that was about a third of the known world at that time.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
John said something about the Antichrist.
What's that?
John, he was talking about something about the Antichrist.
I forget.
I can't remember exactly how he said it now, but I remember thinking, I'm going to talk about that, but it'll come up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so. No, I completely lost my thought.
See, when you ask for comments,
Yeah.
that's what happens.
Yeah,
You
I
get
just-
off track.
That's okay.
Can I go back on something? a minute?
Yeah, sure.
We talked about how that comet came down and it made everything the water bitter.
Yeah.
Some people, you said, some people think it a literal sense, but the spiritual symbolic would be like the bitterness of the world. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Yes, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Bitterness of how it, you know, that's just,
And you reminded me of what I wanted to say. So I'm glad you said that, because in the Jeremiah and in, I think it's in Exodus when he turned, the waters turned bitter. Let's first think about what Jesus said in John chapter 4. He said, I am the water of life. Water equals life. We look for water on other planets and on the moon to say, hey, this can sustain life. So water equals life. If it turns bitter, then lives are turning bitter, symbolically, is what's going on. Our lives are turning bitter here. So that's the symbolic way to look at it. And it's a result of what could possibly be a physical thing. But the symbolism is that, yes, the water's turning bitter means lives are going to start turning bitter. And that's what we're going to get into here in a minute. So, any other questions? And actually, Revelation, it's not the entire world, it's just a third of the world. So, kind of like what you were saying, in Egypt, it was like,
At that time.
At the time.
If you take that
probably about a
perspective,
third of the known world.
and
Yeah.
again, the Revelations, we're talking the third of the whole world.
Right. Yeah, I never thought of that. That's a very good correlation. Pretty good.
That's why I stay up at night and
So, any other questions or comments about the first four trumpets?
that does clarify somewhat, because again, the first time I was going to a Bible study, we were looking at Revelations, and we didn't have this type of discussion. And when we supposedly got pretty much to the end, I was more confused than I was at the beginning.
So
And
that.
it's easy to get that.
Oh,
way,
yeah, it is. It is.
At least
But
for me.
I'm glad you said that, because if we look at this from God's perspective, I mean, I know we can't, but let's think about who God is, what he has done, what his goal is. It kind of puts Revelation in perspective for us. And that is that God created everything. It was good. The world fell into sin. Judgment is needed, and God is going to see this judgment through. But he's protecting his people, and he is bringing it about in a controlled manner. It's not just complete chaos. A lot of people think of Revelation and they think chaos. This is very controlled. Only 1/3 of the night and day. Only 1/3 of the trees and grass. Only 1/3 of the rivers. Only 1/3 of the sea. So it's very controlled. He is absolutely in control. And he's bringing it to a point where not only is he allowing people to repent and return to him, but he's bringing it to a point that when he knows that they're not going to repent anymore and they're just not going to accept him, he destroys it all and restores all things. So we have to remember that Revelation is more about God than it is about us. It's more about what God's doing than it is about what's happening to us. And this next section is really going to feed into that. So I'm going to start on chapter 9. I think we got time. I'm not going to read all of it, but I want to read just at least this first one here. The fifth angel, wait, I'm going to back up. Verse 13 again. I want to read that again in chapter 8. As I watched, I heard an eagle that was flying in midair call out in a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the trumpet blast about to be sounded by the other three angels." So 3 woes. Now, woe in the Bible is almost always means something bad's coming. Okay? Something bad's coming. So there's 3 of them, and there's 3 trumpets left. And the eagle kind of represents like the lion is the king of the jungle, and in a king sense, the eagle is like the king of the air. Okay? There's a prince of the power of the prince of the air, which is Satan. This is an eagle. This is the king of the air, not a prince. This isn't Satan. Could be an angel, could be a physical eagle, but wherever, I think regardless of how we look at it, it's important to know that the woe, woe, woe that's about to come is what God's trying to bring to our attention right now. So, chapter 9. The 5th angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. When he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it like the smoke from a gigantic furnace. The sun and sky were darkened by the smoke from the abyss, and out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions of the earth. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any plant or tree, but only those who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were not allowed to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. And the agony they suffered was like that of the sting of a scorpion when it strikes. During those days, people will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. I'm going to read a little bit more here. So the locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads, they wore something like crowns of gold, and their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. They had breastplates like the breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like a thundering of many horses and chariots rushing into battle. They had tails with stingers like scorpions in their tails. They had power to torment the people for 5 months. They had as a king over them the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek is Apollyon, that is, destroyer. The first woe is past. 2 other woes are yet to come. Okay, I don't think I want to even deal with the first one, let alone the 2 that are coming, right? So let's talk about this. So in the Left Behind series, Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins, they describe these physical, actual, giant locusts that are described exactly like you see in here. How many people think that's really what's going to happen? I mean, it's okay if you do.
Who's to say it won't?
What's that?
Who's to say it won't?
Who's to say it won't? Me.
I think it's more symbolic. I think
Yeah.
it's more symbolic.
I think it's more
than
symbolic.
actual. That's my thought.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. Who's to say it won't happen? God can do whatever he wants. What's that?
Are you kidding me? God can come up with some stuff.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
It could be a physical, because the way you describe some of the beings in heaven, and who's to say that?
Well, these come out of the ground, though.
But we're talking about God here. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
I
mean-
don't put limits on anything that.
And nature either, because if you look at some, they're fascinating.
Sure, sure. You look at a giraffe or an elephant, and then look at a mouse or even a mosquito.
Yeah.
Yeah, God can do whatever he wants.
That's
There's no doubt about that. I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that. However, I do believe it's very symbolic. Because
Something we don't know about.
the stars are, first of all, the stars are millions or more miles away. For a star to fall down to earth, that's almost impossible, okay? And even then, if it really could, it would burn us up before it even got anywhere near us. Because think of how far away the sun is, and it's a star, okay? So this is probably an angel, because many times in the Bible, angels are referred to as stars, okay? And
Lucifer was too.
yes.
Like the morning star.
yes, Lucifer was a star, referred to as a star. But it's not a physical star, but a spiritual being, like an angel or a demon. Regardless of angel or demon, it comes down to earth and it seems to open up the earth, and all these creatures come out. They're I think it's in Jude, mentions that there are fallen angels that are in chains in the earth. Okay, they are awaiting judgment. So there are, whether you believe it or not, I really believe there are angels and demons around us all the time. I believe spiritual warfare is a very real thing, and a lot of times we don't take it seriously enough. But in this particular instance, this thing's coming down and letting these things out, and the latter part, beginning with verse 7, shows what they look like. But then it says they had a king over them, and the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon and in Greek is Apollyon. So they have a leader. Now, this angel, as it says, angel of the abyss, angel does not always mean white with white robes and wings and playing a harp. Demons are fallen angels, okay? So this angel is most likely a very high-ranking demon.
Satan.
Well, this one's not Satan. He's coming. He is. Yeah, he's like the president. He's the CEO of the angels, fallen angels. But there are ranks, and Paul alludes to this as well in some of his writings, that there are ranks of demons and angels too. And many places give some kind of an indication of the ranks of the good angels, so we have to assume that there's ranks for the bad angels as well, the demons. But these demons, we'll call them demons, are going to torment people for 5 months. Think about what has already passed. We have a third of the ground, the trees, the grass, everything's burned up. A third of the water you can't drink. A third of the day and night. That's going to lead to some very mentally challenging times, isn't it, for people that are alive? Go ahead. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Quick question.
Yeah.
The numbers are so relevant all the way throughout Revelations. The 5 months, is there a relevance to the 5 months? I can't think, most of the numbers, I can't think on the 5 months.
So it's a good possibility that it's 5 because 5 is grace, faith, mercy. Anytime you see 5, that's usually what it's involving, one of those things. God has shown mercy already in only doing this to a third of the earth, okay? Prior to this, we got to remember, we got to see Revelation not as a sequential thing, but as an all-encompassing thing. We got 144,000 and the great multitude of people that are wearing white. That's God's people. They're protected. They're sealed. They're not going to be harmed. And it even says in here to only harm those who do not have. Where did it say it? Yeah. Is that on their forehead? Is that what it said? I can't remember now. Yeah, who not have the seal of God on their forehead. So we have two groups of people. We have those who are sealed, those who are not. The 5 months, the only thing I can think, and now it could have something more significant, I don't know. I see it as one of two things: God cutting the time short in preparation for what's coming next, or related to show that his people of faith are not going to be harmed because they have faith, which is always, the numbers in the Bible, 5 is a number for faith, like the 5 virgins that had oil in their lamps. They were faithful. So I know that's not a real good answer, but it's the best answer I've got.
Well, more than what I could come up with.
Okay.
I thought the seal on the forehead came from the people who repented after the third trumpet.
Okay, you're getting ahead again. You're getting a little bit ahead again, I think, if I understand your line of thinking. But no, they get sealed. It's after the sixth seal, before the seventh seal, there's that little cutout of time. And that's when God seals the people. Now, in timeline order, is the revelation in timeline order, or is this, maybe he seals them right at the beginning of the whole thing? I don't think it necessarily matters as much as the fact that they are sealed and they're protected. Because these four trumpet judgments are not on people, they're on the earth. Yeah, people are affected. And really the earth is affected too by the other, which were about people. You know, the earth gets affected by war, by fire, by pestilence. It gets affected by things like that. But in this particular case, these people are sealed and they got the seal on their forehead, and they're not going to be affected by these locusts. What I think it is this is my personal belief. Well, it's a very common belief, but not the most common belief, is that it's a lot of mental anguish, a lot of torment. What's going on in the world? Why do we have all this economic upheaval? Why do we have all this world upheaval? Who's in charge anymore? And it's harming people who don't know God. But the people who know God, who are here, they're like, we know what this is. This is revelation. We know this. So they're banding together. They're praying. They're hanging on just a little while longer, is what God says in the fifth seal. Just a little while longer. And because a lot of them have died too. Okay? And the people who don't know God, they look to the world for answers. The world's getting destroyed. That's going to cause mental anguish and torment brought on by demonic spirits that are being held for this particular day and time in the center or wherever in the earth or wherever they're being held. Symbolically, it says that he digs down it goes down into the earth and out they come. Does that make sense? Now, I know people that believe the pre-tribulation rapture are like, well, we're not going to be here. Again, that's very possible. I don't know. I see evidence for it. I see evidence against it. But there will be people of God here. We know that. They get sealed. So whether they are always here or became Christians during this time, there's people here that are people of God. And they're the ones that are not going to be tormented mentally because they know. Like, think about when something bad happens to us. As we get closer to God, it still hurts and it's still terrible. But when you have God and you're closer to God in that relationship, it eases that pain a little bit. I know if it's not okay now, it's going to be okay in the future. I don't like what I'm going through right now, but God is still with me. But if you can imagine, and it's hard for us to imagine unless we just became Christians, it's hard for us to imagine that time when I didn't know God and how awful it was. Or maybe you, like me, I became a Christian when I was 11 years old, but for about 20 years of that time, I wasn't walking with God. And I can remember what that was like. And I don't ever want to experience that again. And just like, you know, people say, oh, the Apostle Paul is great. He murdered people. No, I didn't murder anybody. Yeah. But if you knew my past, you'd say, like my friends from college say, how did you become a pastor? And that's all I'm saying about that. But what I'm getting at is this torment is coming from God allowing these spirits to torment these people. And mental torment is very agonizing, and these people are, but they're not allowed to die. That's important. He doesn't let them die, but they're tormented for 5 months.
Kind of like Job.
Yeah, sure, yeah. But Job was a believer, but
That would make you insane. That would drive you crazy.
absolutely would drive you crazy.
To be bitten
Absolutely,
Once you die,
Chris.
you're gonna die.
No, you're not dying, you're gonna be feeling something.
Yeah, and I believe that the reason for that is he's giving them a chance to come to him.
That's it, yeah, it's
Yep.
your last chance.
Turn back.
Yeah, you're-
Yes, yeah, this is your chance to turn back. And I believe a lot of people will. Not all of them will. We know that as we read on, but some of them will.
There's a lot of people that say once Revelation starts, it's too late.
No,
What's that?
no.
I've heard a lot of people say that once Revelation starts, it's too late.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
As you read through that, you're gonna see where the book says,
Yeah.
and still they did not repent.
Right.
There's a
Yeah.
reason for that. They're given a chance to repent clear to the end.
Yeah, the chance is there.
Yep.
It's your choice not to.
That's it, it's your choice.
Yeah. Just like God gives us evidence everywhere that He is real, it's our choice to accept that or not. And so, yeah, it's not too late, but a lot of them are making a choice. And I wish I could get into that tonight, but we're running out of time. But we will get into that in either next week or the weeks to come. I know we will.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You started off